Almost nobody talks about this, but that quick, comforting bowl of reheated rice from your microwave might be harboring a hidden truth, one that silently challenges what we assume about convenience and our daily meals. Have you ever noticed how sometimes, after a simple microwave meal, you just don't feel quite right? A subtle rumble, a vague uneasiness you can't quite pinpoint. We often brush it off, blaming stress or something else. But what if that very appliance, the one designed for speed and ease, is sometimes inadvertently contributing to a quiet, insidious process, turning something as innocuous as last night's rice into a culinary risk? What if the microwave isn't always the innocent helper we believe it to be, especially when it comes to saving leftover rice? And what if there's a far gentler, safer way to bring it back to life? You see, rice, in all its humble simplicity, carries with it a surprising secret, an ancient traveler that survives even the fiercest heat of cooking. When we boil rice, most of the usual suspects, those everyday bacteria that can make us sick, are readily destroyed. But there's a particular kind of spore-forming bacteria, omnipresent in soil, and thus often on rice grains, called Bacillus cereus, whose resilient spores can withstand the cooking process. These tiny, dormant survivors aren't a problem when your rice is piping hot and freshly cooked, brimming with steam and vibrancy. The real, often unseen issue begins to emerge when that perfectly cooked rice cools down and sits for too long at room temperature, shifting from a state of innocuous sustenance to one of potential concern. Imagine those countless moments you cook a generous batch of rice for dinner, and then after everyone's eaten their fill, you might, out of habit or simply forgetfulness, leave the rest on the counter to cool down before eventually tucking it into the fridge. Or perhaps you prepare rice ahead of time for meal prep, meticulously planning your week, but leave the pot out while you chop other ingredients, tidy the kitchen, or finish up other tasks. It's such a common, seemingly harmless habit, one most of us have engaged in without a second thought. It feels responsible, efficient, but it's precisely during this cooling period, particularly when the rice stays lingering in what food safety experts ominously call the temperature danger zone, roughly between 40 Fahrenheit D and 140 Fahrenheit D, about 4 degrees Celsius and 60 degrees Celsius, that those dormant Bacillus cereus spores, those ancient travelers, awaken. They germinate, they multiply, they thrive in that cozy room temperature environment, and most crucially, they start producing toxins. Now, here's where the contradiction lies, the part that challenges our everyday understanding of what makes food safe or unsafe. These toxins are remarkably resilient and incredibly stable. That means even if you thoroughly reheat your rice later, whether you bring it back to a boil on the stovetop, or yes, even if you zap it intensely in your microwave, the heat might certainly kill off the bacteria that produce them, but it often won't destroy the toxins they've already created and deposited into the rice. It's a bit like clearing a battlefield of soldiers after the bombs have already been dropped. The immediate threat, the live bacteria, may be neutralized, but the lingering danger, in the form of these persistent, invisible toxins, can still remain. And it's these toxins that can lead to something often referred to as reheated rice syndrome, or in common culinary parlance, fried rice syndrome, a form of food poisoning that, while usually not life-threatening for most healthy adults, can certainly leave you feeling absolutely miserable, utterly drained, and wishing you had opted for something else entirely. The symptoms of this kind of food poisoning can vary from person to person, but often involve an unpleasant cocktail of nausea, stomach cramping, and sometimes vomiting, occasionally coupled with diarrhea. These unwelcome sensations can appear relatively quickly, sometimes within just 1 to 5 hours after eating the contaminated rice, turning an enjoyable meal into a source of discomfort. And while most people do recover within a day or so, without long-term effects, it's certainly not an experience you'd wish upon yourself, your family, or a loved one. The sneaky thing about it is that these symptoms are often vague enough that we easily attribute them to something else entirely, a fleeting stomach bug kicked up from who knows where, perhaps, or a general feeling of being unwell due to stress or fatigue. We rarely, if ever, connect it back to that perfectly convenient, quickly zapped bowl of rice, a meal so unassuming and a daily habit so deeply ingrained. The actual cause often slips through our awareness, remaining a mystery even to us. This brings us to the beloved microwave, a modern marvel, a staple in nearly every kitchen around the globe for its undeniable speed, its almost magical ability to transform cold food into hot food in mere minutes. It's an appliance that promises quick meals and easy reheating, fitting seamlessly into the often frantic pace of our busy lives. But for all its marvel and undeniable utility, the microwave, particularly concerning rice, has an Achilles heel, a design quirk that makes it less ideal for this specific task: its inherent tendency to heat unevenly. Microwaves, at their core, work by exciting the water molecules within your food, causing friction and generating heat. However, the electromagnetic waves aren't distributed perfectly uniformly within the oven cavity, and the way food absorbs them can vary significantly due to density, shape, and even how much water it contains. This often results in cold spots, areas within your food that simply don't reach the same high, pathogen-killing temperatures as others, remaining frustratingly tepid. For rice that may be harboring Bacillus cereus spores, and more importantly, the toxins they might have already produced, these cold spots are more than just an inconvenience for your palate. They are potential breeding grounds. Even if the hot spots reach temperatures high enough to kill off active bacteria, those colder pockets can allow some resilient bacteria to survive, lying in wait. And as the toxins are already present, they certainly aren't going anywhere, regardless of how hot some parts of the rice get. This means that a quick microwave reheat, especially if the rice wasn't stirred diligently or covered properly to create a steaming effect, might not guarantee complete safety, leaving a lingering, unseen risk that most of us are completely unaware of, blindly trusting our convenient kitchen assistant. So, what's a busy, health-conscious individual to do with leftover rice, an everyday staple we so often enjoy, a source of comfort and sustenance across cultures? Must we simply throw it away, embracing a level of food waste that feels inherently wrong? This is where a slightly different approach, what we might gently call an oven hack, steps in to offer a much more reassuring, thorough, and frankly superior solution. The key to safe reheating, as food safety experts consistently emphasize and robust research supports, is ensuring that the food reaches a consistent internal temperature of 165 degrees Fahrenheit, about 74 degrees Celsius, throughout, and does so rapidly. The microwave, with its inherent uneven heating, struggles to guarantee this consistency without meticulous stirring and careful monitoring, something few of us have time or inclination for during a busy day. The oven, on the other hand, excels at it, providing a more reliable and enveloping warmth. To lovingly employ this comforting oven hack, all you need is your humble oven, a baking dish, shallow is better, and a simple sheet of aluminum foil. First, begin by preheating your oven to a moderate, steady temperature, usually around 300 degrees Fahrenheit to 325 degrees Fahrenheit, approximately 150 degrees Celsius to 160 degrees Celsius. This gentler, more consistent heat is exactly what we're aiming for. Then, simply spread your leftover cooked rice in an even, thin layer across the bottom of your shallow, oven-safe dish. Don't crowd it into a mountain. Remember, even heating is our goal. For every cup of rice you're reheating, you might want to sprinkle about a tablespoon or two of water over it, or even a splash of broth if you'd like to infuse a bit more flavor and help tenderize the grains. This added liquid is not just for moisture. It plays a crucial role in creating a steamy environment under the foil, which works wonders for rehydrating the individual grains and ensuring a tender, fluffy texture, preventing it from drying out into a hard, unappetizing mess. Once the liquid is added, cover the dish tightly and securely with aluminum foil. This step is key. It effectively seals in the steam and allows the gentle, circulating, consistent heat of the oven to thoroughly and evenly warm the rice from all sides, permeating every single grain without leaving behind any pool pockets. Bake it for about 15 to 20 minutes, or until the rice is unequivocally piping hot throughout. You can even use a food thermometer to check if you want absolute certainty. It should register a safe 165 degrees Fahrenheit, 74 degrees Celsius, in several different spots within the dish. The inherent beauty of this method lies in the oven's superior ambient heat distribution. Unlike the often erratic hotspots and frustrating cold pockets of a microwave, the oven provides a consistent, enveloping warmth that leaves no lurking, unseen spots for bacteria to potentially survive or for toxins to remain unchallenged. This simple shift ensures your rice is not only deliciously moist and fluffy, but genuinely safe, offering true peace of mind with every comforting bite. Of course, the best defense against foodborne illness starts even earlier than the reheating process itself. It begins with how we handle rice, right from the very moment it's cooked and pulled from the heat. Once your rice is perfectly steamed or boiled, the race against Bacillus cereus begins in earnest. The absolute golden rule, a bedrock principle of food safety, is to cool it down as quickly and efficiently as humanly possible. Don't, out of convenience or oversight, leave that large, deep pot of rice on the counter to slowly come to room temperature over several hours. This extended period is precisely what provides the ideal window for spore germination. Instead, actively and intentionally cool it. Divide it immediately into smaller, shallower containers, or spread it out thinly on a clean baking sheet or tray. This action vastly increases the surface area exposed to cooler air, which dramatically speeds up the cooling process, bringing the rice through the danger zone much faster. Ideally, get it into the refrigerator within 1 hour, and certainly no longer than 2 hours after cooking. Rapid chilling actively prevents those dormant spores from germinating and multiplying to dangerous toxin-producing levels. Once refrigerated, aim to consume your leftover rice within 1 day or at most 2 days, as its safety window is surprisingly short. If you prepare larger quantities for meal prep or family gatherings and know with certainty you won't eat it all within that critical time frame, freezing individual portions immediately after rapid cooling is an excellent, reliable option for long-term safety and convenience, pausing the clock on bacterial growth entirely. And importantly, to truly minimize risk, you should never reheat rice more than once. Every cycle of cooling and reheating increases the opportunity for potential bacterial growth and toxin formation, subtly increasing the hidden risk with each successive warming. These guidelines might sound a little demanding at first, perhaps even a bit tedious, especially when our daily routines are so entrenched in the promise of quick solutions and microwave ease. We live in a world that champions speed and minimal effort, but truly, this isn't about fear-mongering. It's about empowerment through understanding. It's about recognizing the invisible, subtle complexity within our seemingly simple, everyday foods and giving ourselves the knowledge and the gentle tools to navigate it safely, confidently, and mindfully. This subtle shift in our approach to rice isn't just a clever kitchen trick or a culinary suggestion. It's a small, yet profoundly impactful act of mindful self-care, a way to ensure that the nourishment you lovingly prepare truly fuels your body without unwanted consequences. It's about being present, even in the smallest details of preparing a meal. You might find yourself feeling a little surprised, even a touch betrayed, by your trusted microwave now, after hearing about its subtle pitfalls when it comes to reheating rice. Perhaps as you've listened, you're remembering a time you felt a little off, a touch uneasy, after a quick leftover meal, and suddenly, in a flash of clarity, it all clicks into place. Please know, with absolute certainty, this isn't your fault. These particular nuances of food safety, especially concerning common, seemingly innocent staples like rice, aren't widely publicized or intuitively obvious. They often remain in the domain of food scientists and public health experts. For years, many, if not all of us, have simply followed what felt most convenient, what we were taught by example, or what we learned implicitly from the rhythm of our households, without ever questioning the deeper scientific dance happening within our food. And with this knowing comes a quiet power, the empowering ability to protect yourself and your loved ones with simple yet profoundly effective adjustments to your daily rituals. By embracing these small, deliberate acts of culinary mindfulness, by turning to the comforting consistency and enveloping warmth of the oven when it comes to reviving your precious grains, you're not just merely reheating rice, you're honoring the intricate process, respecting the delicate balance of your body, and ensuring that every single spoonful brings only deep goodness, warmth, and genuine comfort to your table. So next time, pause for a moment, consider giving your leftover rice the gentle, thorough warmth it truly deserves from the oven, and savor the quiet peace of mind that comes with knowing you're truly taking care in every mindful bite. If you found this conversation helpful, if it resonated with you, or if it sparked a new curiosity in how you nourish yourself and your loved ones every day, consider subscribing, sharing it with someone you care about, or leaving a thoughtful comment below. It helps this information, this deeper understanding, reach more people who, just like you, might be searching for these hidden truths in the simple yet profound act of eating. Thank you for listening, for inviting me into your quiet space, and for allowing me to share these gentle insights with you. May your meals always be both deliciously satisfying and deeply, truly nurturing to your whole being.